For numbers 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, we will be using the percent equation in order to solve the percent questions. The percent equation is percent times base equals amount. So starting with number 9, what is 8.75% of 148? So we know that we're given the percent because we see a percent sign. So I can put 8.75% here for the percent part of the equation. Bring down my multiplication symbol. If we're given the base, if we're given the number that represents the base, we will see that after the word of. So when we look at the question, we have of 148. So that means the number 148 is the base. So I can bring that down here under the base. And then I have equals amount. So we will always have the two pieces of information that will be given to us, and there will be a third piece of information in the percent equation that's unknown. And in this case, the amount is unknown. So before we solve, unless you have a percent calculator, or a calculator that does percents for you, convert your percents to decimals. So converting this percent to a decimal, I simply move the decimal 1, 2 places to the left. And of course, in order to move it those 2 places, I had to add a 0 there. So the decimal is 0.0875 times 48, and that will give us our amount. So after multiplying 0.0875 times 148, that equals to 12.95, which equals to the amount. So when I go back to my answer space here, I'll write 12.95 is 8.75% of 148. Let's move to number 10. And please be sure to, of course, pause the video if you want to go back, slow it down a little bit, watch that previous example. Number 10, what is 8.75% of 156? So this one is just like number 1. We're given the percent, 8.75, so we leave it here, times. After the word of, we have a number, which is our base. So of course we write 146 for the base. Therefore, the unknown amount is still there. So converting the percent to a decimal again, moving the decimal 1, 2 places to the left, we have 0.0875 times 156 equals the amount. After multiplying those two numbers, we see that the amount is 13.65 as the answer. So coming back to number 10 in the answer space, I'm going to write 13.65 is 8.75% of 156. Percent times base equals amount. Now let's move to number 11. And number 11 is still a percent question. It's just different. So we're using the same formula. 36 is what percent of 160? So we can see that the percent is not given to us this time because we have what percent, and then we don't see a number that has a percent sign. So that means that percent will remain as the unknown. And now we can look for the base. So we're going to look after the word of, and after the word of, we have a number, and that number is 160. So we're given the base. Now we see that we're only given, so far we've only included one piece of information. So the amount must be the 36. But to be clear, we know that we have the amount when we look next to the word is, and we see that there's a number. So in this case, we see that 36 is. That lets us know that the amount is given. So we're going to put 36 for the amount. So now we have this equation, percent times 160 equals to 36. And in order for us to solve for the percent, we are going to undo the multiplication of this 160. And I'm going to do that by dividing by 160. But if I divide this side of the equation by 160, I must divide the opposite side by 160 as well. So that it divides away here, and we have percent equals 36 divided by 160, and that equals to 0.225. Now, we haven't converted it to a percent yet. So we do want to take this decimal and convert it to a percent because our answer is asking for what percent. So we're going to move the decimal 2 places to the right. And the percent is 22.5%. So going back to our answer space, we will write 36 is 22.5% of 160. So I want you to pause the video now, and I want you to try to set up number 12 before you watch me work it out to see if you set it up correctly. So pause the video now. All right, so you're back. So let's look at number 12. The number 30.26 is 22.25% of what number? So again, we're given the percent because we have a number that has a percent sign. So I'm going to write 22.25% under the percent here, times, after the word of, there is no number given. Actually, there's a question, what number? So that means that the base is unknown to us. So then that leaves the amount. When I look next to the word is, I see the amount is given, and the amount is 30.26. So we're going to put 30.26 in place of the amount. I'm going to convert my percent by moving the decimal 2 places to the left. So I have 0.2225 times the base equals to 30.26. And again, we're going to keep our solving very simple. Since I'm trying to solve for the base, I'm going to undo this multiplication of the 0.2225, and I'm going to do that by simply dividing by 0.2225. But if I divide one side of the equation, I must divide the other side of the equation by that same number. So now we're left with the base is equal to 30.27 divided by 0.2225, and that equals to 136. So going back to my answer space, I can write the number 30.26 is 22.25% of 136. So now let's talk about number 13. And this is definitely a more advanced type of percent question, but we're still using the percent equation. We just have to know what to look for when we're trying to create our equation. Summarized on the right is a number of visitors in millions of the top 5 websites in 2015. So I see websites A, B, C, D, and E, and they have the numbers here of how many visitors in millions for each of those individual websites, okay? Use this information to calculate what percent, that's key, right? We have what percent, that means the percent is unknown. To calculate what percent of visitors, we have the word of, so let's talk about what's after of the visitors of these 5 products was due to website A. So we're looking for the information that's given. So we need to determine what value of the base we need to enter and what value of the amount is given. So it says what percent of the visitors of these 5 products. So if they're talking about these 5 products and the visitors, they want us to calculate the total of all 5 of these websites. Calculate the total of visitors from all 5 of those websites. So we're going to add these 5 numbers together. Since it's after the word of, that means that's going to give us our base amount. So after adding, we have 4,936. So the base is 4,946. Now, how do we identify what the amount is? Where are we finding the amount? Well, it says what percent of the visitors of these 5 products was due to website A. Now, we talked about the amount being after the word is, right? Well, it's still technically, well, next to the word is. It still technically is because we have the word was, right? Which is past tense. And it says was due to website A. And what is website A? Website A is the value of 1431. So the amount we have to determine from the chart. In this case, it directly is asking us about 1431. So that's what we enter in as the amount. So now we have our equation. And it can take us a little bit longer to set it up because we have to really read into the question. And we're going to solve this by undoing the multiplication, right? Solving for this percent, we're going to undo the multiplication of 4,936 by dividing by the 4,936. And I have to divide the same number to both sides, like so. And that leaves us with the percent equals, and we will divide those 2 numbers, and it will give us a very long number. It gives us 0.2899, and it goes on and on and on. So the key to writing this answer correctly first is we need to make sure we can go ahead and convert this to a percentage. So I just wrote at least 4 digits after the decimal. So I can convert this to 1, 2 places to the right, convert it to my percent first here, which will be 28.99 ... percent, because it goes on and on. But the directions ask us to round to the nearest integer. Whenever you're asked to round to the nearest integer, that's the same thing as asking you to round to the ones. Round to the ones. And what is in the ones? The 8. So the number to the right is a 9, which tells me that the 8 must be rounded up. So the actual answer, rounded correctly, is 29%.